In December of 1989, federal court judge Robert Vance and his wife were preparing for the busy Christmas holiday.
Who sent the box?
I don't know. Doesn't say.
It was a delivery he never expected.
Welcome back to Morbid Mysteries. I'm Carson.
I'm Erica.
Imagine this. You open your mailbox during the holiday season thinking it's just another gift or card. But when you open the package, you find something completely unexpected, a bomb. Tonight we're going to explore the life of Walter Leroy Moody, a man whose rage against the legal system led him to carry out some of the most shocking bombings in U.S. history. He would later become the oldest man executed in the U.S. But how did we get here? What drove him to kill? Let's take a look at his twisted path.
Walter Leroy Moody was born on March 24, 1935 in Rex, Georgia, a small town south of Atlanta. He was the oldest of 3 kids, and his father, Walter Leroy Moody Sr., was trying to make a living in a world changing from Great Depression to post-World War II America. As a child, Moody showed interest in mechanics, often taking things apart to see how they work. But as he got older, something darker started to shape inside him. He didn't do well in school, but he found some disciplines in the military. By 1953, he joined the Air Force, where he served for several years. While his military career was stable, it didn't seem to satisfy him. People around him began to notice a deep anger brewing inside him.
After leaving the military, Moody tried to build a new life. He went to a small college hoping to become a neurosurgeon, but soon gave up on that. He tried to study law next, but failed there too, unable to keep up his grades. By the mid-1960s, his frustration had fully taken hold. Moody's inability to succeed in these fields left him bitter and resentful, and his paranoia grew stronger. He started to develop a deep hatred for the very systems he believed had wronged him.
In 1967, Dr. Thomas M. Hall evaluated Moody. Hall described him as a man filled with violent thoughts, someone who was constantly afraid his anger would eventually cause him to destroy others. This wasn't just a phase, it was a pattern that would only worsen over time. His behavior got more troubling. In one disturbing incident, Moody allegedly tried to drown 3 of his business associates. When they pressed charges against him, he turned the tables and sued them instead. This warped sense of justice, where he saw himself as the victim, not the aggressor, was just a glimpse of the violence that would come.
By the late 1980s, Moody's anger and paranoia turned deadly. In December of 1989, he carried out a terrifying act of revenge that would make headlines across the country. Moody sent out carefully crafted bombs designed to kill as many people as possible. His first target, Judge Robert S. Vance, a federal judge on the U.S. 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, Moody sent a bomb disguised as a regular package, and when Judge Vance opened it, the bomb exploded, killing him instantly. But Vance wasn't the only victim. On the same day, Moody mailed another bomb to Robert E. Robinson, a civil rights lawyer from Savannah, Georgia. Robinson was killed as well.
Moody didn't stop there. He sent bombs to the NAACP office in Jacksonville, Florida, and the other potential targets. Luckily, these bombs were intercepted before they could explode, but the fear they caused was real.
At his trial, prosecutors described Moody as a coward, someone who, instead of facing his victims, hid behind bombs, killing from a distance. What made it even worse is that Moody tried to make the murders look like they were the work of the Ku Klux Klan. He hoped that by doing this, he could stir up racial tension and confuse investigators.
Imagine the terror for those who received the packages, or for the families of Judge Vance and Robert Robinson, who suddenly lost their loved ones to a senseless act of violence. Law enforcement quickly identified Moody as the suspect, thanks to his detailed bomb-making techniques. He was arrested in 1990 and convicted in 1991 on 71 charges related to the bombings.
But even though he was found guilty, Moody's journey through the justice system wasn't over. His time on death row would stretch for years. He still held on to his belief that the world owed him something. His obsession with revenge didn't fade. In April 2018, Walter Leroy Moody was executed by lethal injection. At 83 years old, he became the oldest person executed in the United States, since the death penalty was reinstated in 1976. His execution took place at the Holman Correctional Facility in Alabama, a tragic end to a man whose life was defined by anger, violence, and a relentless desire for revenge.
What perhaps most chilling about Moody's life is how he justified his actions. His rage wasn't just about individuals, it was aimed at the entire system that he believed had rejected him. Whenever it was his military career, he failed academic attempts, or his inability to build a meaningful life, Moody saw the world as something that had wronged him, and he wanted to make others pay for it.
So what do we learn from Walter Leroy Moody's life and crimes? His story shows us how destructive, unchecked anger can be. A man who had so much potential but let his frustrations take over. In the end, it was that very anger that led to the deaths of 2 innocent people and caused irreparable harm to many others.
Moody may have died in 2018, but the impact of his crimes are still felt today. Into the history of the legal system that struggled to stop him, and as we reflect on his story, we're left to ask, what drives a man to kill with such cold, calculated precision? And how can we prevent it from happening again?
So what do you think drives a man to kill?
I think what causes a man to kill is his mindset and thinking that the world is out against him. When people feel like no one trusts them, or they feel like they're the victims, they're most likely going to just do anything to get back at the world. And I think Moody had that mindset of like, everyone's out against me, no one's listening to me, so he thought the only way to go against the justice system was to do something so violent. He wasn't thinking about like others and their families as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I believe that if Moody had the correct support systems that didn't make him feel like a victim, he probably would not have committed the crimes that he did.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed like a man who was neglected and left to his own devices and did not have much interaction with friends or family.
Mm-hmm. I personally think that if Moody's family maybe kind of saw the warning signs when he was younger and kind of saw that he had a little bit too much of an interest in like getting revenge with the justice system and started seeing his darker behaviors, maybe his actions could have been avoided. But it seems as though his family wasn't really active in his life, but it might have been because of the time period they were around.
Yes, not that that puts blame on his family.
Mm-hmm.
It's not anyone's specific fault but Leroy's.
Mm-hmm.
But it did seem like he was neglected by the world, which made him have the mindset of victim mentality, which made him take revenge against the world in such a violent way.
Mm-hmm. From happening again.
Thank you for joining us on Morbid Mysteries. We hope that this dive into Walter Leroy Moody's life and crimes has given you a better understanding of the mind of a killer.
Until next time, stay vigilant, because sometimes the greatest dangers are the ones hiding just under the surface.
Breaking news in Alabama tonight. A man convicted of 2 deadly bombings has been executed. Alabama's Attorney General confirms Walter Leroy Moody was executed just after 9:30 tonight, so this is breaking news. Moody convicted of murdering a federal judge, Robert Vance, with a bomb in Birmingham in the late 1980s. Moody also killed a civil rights attorney from Savannah and mailed a bomb to a civil rights organization.
I'm concerned about anybody finding any connections regarding those or any other bombings ever.
Have you forgiven him?
No. You can't forgive a person like that. He has never shown any remorse. He's never acknowledged any guilt.
Holman would rather Moody stay in jail for the rest of his life than be put to death.
Getting the lethal injection, it was designed to be quick and painless. My dad's death was not quick and painless.
Holman's sister, Tiffany Burt, was just 10 years old the day their dad died.
I knew that it hurt, and I knew that my family was hurting, and I knew that I wasn't going to see my father again, and that
Mom
hurt.
suffered some severe injuries from the explosion. She had several cuts in the flesh from the nails that the bomb had been bound with. And she had had several internal injuries from nails actually penetrating the body, including one that had done some damage to her liver.
Moody faces the death chamber for the 1989 murder of Judge Robert Vance.
I'm sure I had
executed Walter Leroy Moody, convicted